If only someone could make a video game with this many characters. Batman Arkham City. So Arkham City was a video game that came out in 2011 and is, in my opinion, one of the best Batman stories ever written. Now when it came out, it was actually a sequel to the already hugely popular Arkham Asylum game. And sadly, at that time, I had very little interest in video games. The only console that I had was the Wii, and I really only played the Wii Sports and the Lego games that were out. I didn't have any PlayStations or Xboxes, so I just let that go. However, in 2015, Arkham City's sequel, Arkham Knight, was coming out, and being a junior in high school, I really wanted to play it. So that Christmas, not only did I get Arkham Knight, I also got a PlayStation 4 to play it on. And I really enjoyed that game, but I wanted more. And I also heard rumors that a re-release of Arkham City and Arkham Asylum was coming for the PlayStation 4, completely remastered. And that got me really excited. Fortunately, for the following Christmas in 2016, it was released and I was able to get it. And I played both of those games back to back. And I really did enjoy both games. But I believe Arkham City is the best Arkham game out there. See, when you look at all three games as a franchise, Arkham Asylum has a very intense, claustrophobic feel, and the story is very linear. There are side missions, but for the most part it's from point A to point B. Arkham City is the bigger and better sequel that everybody wanted. It opens up the world beyond just the asylum and encompasses a pretty big chunk of Gotham City. It's big enough to be given room to breathe, but small enough where you can glide from one end of the city to the other in a reasonable amount of time. In Arkham Knight, while it gives you the Batmobile, which you haven't had in any of the other games, opens up the entirety of Gotham City. And each of these games have their advantages and disadvantages depending on how straightforward is the narrative, how big is the scope of the city that you're able to operate in. And for my money, Arkham City struck the perfect balance. A free-roaming open world game with a lot of side missions and side characters, but also with a very pressing and urgent main mission. And this is really what makes Arkham City one of the best Batman stories ever told. And it's because this game really understands how to tell a large-scale Batman story in a way that feels true to the characters and world of Batman. Now, there have been countless versions of Batman. Different directors and writers and artists have all had a turn in telling their version of who Batman is and what he represents. However, there are very few times when storytellers forego their individual style and attempt to render something undeniably Batman. The best example of this that I can think of is the Batman animated series. While this series definitely has a style of its own, it's flexible enough to pay tribute to almost every version of Batman that came before it. And there are countless videos on the internet of people breaking down why this show works so well as a Batman story. And the most recent example I can think of that fits this timeless Batman criteria is the graphic novel Batman Hush by Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb. Both of these stories incorporate so much from the Batman mythos to the point where it feels like a living, breathing world that you just stepped into. And I think Arkham City is the same thing. It's a grand story, incorporates the vast majority of Batman's rogues gallery, and includes a unique mystery for the Dark Knight to solve. And it's no surprise that this game feels like a more adult version of Batman the Animated Series because they share a writer. Writer Paul Dini, who is responsible for the creation of Harley Quinn and the reintroduction of Mr. Freeze, helped write the story of Arkham City. And the parallels don't stop there. They even managed to get Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, the actors who voiced Batman and the Joker in the animated series, to come back and reprise their roles for this game. And I don't know about you, but when I'm reading a Batman comic, the voices that I hear for Batman and the Joker is Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill. They're just the perfect actors to play these characters. But let's talk about how the rest of these characters are portrayed, because there's some interesting directions that I didn't expect to see in this game. For instance, the Penguin played a much bigger role in this game than I expected. I honestly didn't expect the Penguin to be in this game at all, because he wasn't in Arkham Asylum, and he isn't actually crazy. Yeah, regardless of what Tim Burton's Penguin would have you believe, the Penguin is actually not crazy in the comics. He's a bad guy, yes, and very crooked, but at the end of the day, you lock him up in Blackgate, the regular prison for crime bosses and racketeers. The Penguin's just a gangster with a theme, but still a gangster. And they actually did him justice in this story. How they got around this was that when all the criminals were moved from the asylum to Arkham City, it wasn't just the Arkham Asylum inmates that were invited. They also transferred convicts from Blackgate into Arkham City to be kind of a one-stop shop of criminal activities. It's very Escape from New York, where all the criminal activity is concentrated into this one walled off section where the people inside have the freedom to do whatever they want to each other, and the people outside can just go about their day. So yeah, in this version, the Penguin isn't crazy. He's just a mob boss that wants power and control within Arkham City, and actually has very little patience for the crazies that are his competition, you know, like the Joker and Two-Face. And while the Penguin storyline isn't that long, it does give us a really good version of the Penguin, and one that I've been waiting to see for a long time. And one character that they've reinterpreted that appears in every one of these Arkham games is the Riddler. Now, where I stand on the Riddler, you can do one of two things with him. You can make him an eccentric, energetic, loose cannon like Frank Gorshin or Jim Carrey did, or you can take it in the more methodical, analytical direction like they did in the animated series and some of the more recent comics. And I think both versions are equally accurate representations of who the Riddler is. But for this game, I side with the developers in that for the tone that they're trying to get across, this more mature, grounded Arkham City, the methodical side was the right choice. And this Riddler doesn't mess around. Like every version of this character, he's obsessed with outsmarting Batman. And in this game, he set up death traps using live bait to prove it. That's a direction for the Riddler sadly lacking in all of his live-action appearances, and something I would love to see from a movie in the future. And probably the biggest contribution that this story has to the Batman mythos is shining more of a light on Catwoman. Now, Batman and Catwoman have always had this tension between them. Batman thinks he can pull her into the light and bring her to the side of justice. Catwoman thinks that she can loosen his morals, where they can be partners in crime together. And this goes back at least as far as the Adam West show. And ever since then, Catwoman has had, to a varying degree, a potential for good in her. And in this game, where she isn't actually a hero, you do see that. And you feel like she doesn't belong in this garbage dump of a city any more than Batman does. So yeah, this game does a good job at taking what people assume about these characters and elaborating on it to make them more three-dimensional. Even characters as cheesy and insignificant as the Calendar Man are done so well and so uniquely that in his case, you feel bad for him. He's just sitting in a jail cell under the courthouse singing nursery rhymes about the months of the year. And even though he only has like 6 lines, you feel bad for this guy. He's clearly not mentally stable, and you're worried about how these other more dangerous criminals are going to take advantage of him. And this brings me to the aspect of this game that I love most of all. And surprisingly, it's not the combat. Yes, the combat is great and innovative, and I do love it. It makes you feel like you are Batman. It makes you feel like you're actually fighting 10 guys at a time and blocking, countering, distracting, using all your gadgets and zipping from one guy to the other. And it's no surprise that the recent Spider-Man game borrowed a lot from the combat of these games. But the part I love most of all is how this game tells a large-scale Batman story. Now, what do I mean by a large-scale story? I'm talking something along the lines of Hush, The Long Halloween, and Nightfall. All of these stories center around one central villain that's kept a mystery for the majority of the story, with the exception of Nightfall, but Bane wears a mask, and he's still pretty mysterious. And these stories find ways to incorporate so much of Batman's rogue gallery and the Bat family into their narratives. I love these stories because they don't leave anybody out, from big names like the Joker and Two-Face, down to D-list villains like the Ventriloquist and Scarface, and Amygdala. And while some characters play bigger roles than others, everyone's represented, and everyone is given a unique moment to shine and show why we love these villains so much. And this game does the same thing. It has one central villain in Hugo Strange, whose motivations are unclear, but you get a sense he's up to no good. And pretty much every Batman villain in the history of Batman is represented in this game in some capacity. and every one of them are given a unique moment to shine, just like the great graphic novels that have come before. So if you haven't played this game in a while, or pass it up for one of the newer Arkham games, give this one another shot, and you'll see, like I did, why this game is one of the best Batman stories ever told. Thank you guys for watching my video. Be sure to click like and subscribe for more content, and click the notification bell to be notified every time I upload a video. And comment below, what is your favorite Batman story? It could be from a video game, a movie, a comic book, a cartoon, you name it. Nothing's off the table, so let me know. And as always, I'm Colby, this was my nerdy talk, and I'll see you in the next video.